I know everything.
And what are you gonna think? And what are you gonna do about it?
The knife sliced through the envelope with a whisper, but in Jack Harlan's steady hands, it felt like a suppressed rifle round. Clean, precise, no echo. He was alone in the dim kitchen of their Seattle suburb home, the clock ticking past midnight like a heartbeat he couldn't silence. The letter inside wasn't from the VA or some old squad mate chasing ghosts from Fallujah. It was from her. Sarah. His wife of 12 years. "I can't do this anymore," it read, the ink smudged as if her tears had betrayed her before the words could. But it was the postmark that gutted him, Chicago, not the conference in Portland she'd sworn up and down. Jack's fingers tightened around the paper, veins bulging like tripwires. He didn't crumple it. Black Ops didn't crumple. They planned. Jack Harlan had buried more secrets in the desert than most men had regrets, but this one clawed at him from the inside out. He'd come home from his last deployment shattered, not by IEDs or sniper fire, but by the way the world blurred when he closed his eyes. Sarah had been his anchor, soft curves and laughter that pulled him back from the edge. "You're my hero," she'd whisper after the nightmares, her hand tracing the scars on his chest like they were love letters. Now, staring at that envelope, he wondered if heroes were just fools who trusted too deep. He folded it neatly, slipped it into his jacket pocket, and poured a scotch. Neat. Like his kills. The burn down his throat was familiar, a small mercy in the rising tide of doubt. The next morning, Sarah breezed in from her run, cheeks flushed, ponytail swinging like nothing had shattered overnight. "Morning, babe," she said, planting a kiss on his stubbled cheek that lingered just a second too long, as if testing the waters. Jack forced a smile, the kind he'd worn interrogating insurgents, blank, unreadable. "Coffee's hot," he replied, watching her pour it black, no sugar, the way she'd started drinking it 6 months ago. Before, it was cream and 2 lumps, sweet like her lies. He sipped his own, eyes tracing the faint red mark on her neck, hidden poorly under concealer. A hickey. Or a bruise from what? His mind flashed to cobble alleys, shadows moving where they shouldn't. Suspicion wasn't a choice. It was muscle memory. Days blurred into a reconnaissance mission Jack never signed up for. He tailed her subtly at first, blending into crowds like he'd done in Baghdad markets. Sarah worked as a graphic designer downtown, but her lunches stretched longer, her phone buzzing with texts she angled away from him. One evening as she showered, he scrolled her messages. Old habit from checking for threats overseas. "Miss you already," from a number labeled, "Gym Buddy." Heart emoji. Jack's stomach twisted, a denial rising like bile. No, not her. Sarah, who cried at his homecomings, who bandaged his wounds with trembling hands. It had to be nothing. A flirtation. Harmless. But the photo attached, a selfie in a hotel bar, her arm around a broad-shouldered man with a cocky grin, ripped the denial to shreds. The man's name? Ethan. Corporate shark, from what Jack pieced together later. The kind of guy who closed deals while Jack closed coffins. Anger simmered low, a controlled burn. Jack didn't confront her that night. Instead, he lay awake beside her sleeping form, listening to her even breaths, the scent of his soap on her skin masking something sharper, cologne that wasn't his. Heartbreak wasn't a sudden explosion for him. It was the slow bleed of trust, each drip carving canyons in his chest. He'd built their life on sand, deployments that stole years, promises that filled the gaps. "I'll always wait," she'd said at the altar, eyes shining under Texas stars. Now, those words echoed hollow, a recruit's oath to a ghost unit. By dawn, suspicion had hardened into resolve. If Sarah wanted out, fine. But she'd learn what betrayal cost when the betrayed knew every shadow. He started small, the way ops unfolded. Intel first. A burner phone, anonymous emails to Ethan's office posing as a concerned colleague. Clues piled up like spent casings, credit card hits for dinners at that Chicago steakhouse, a florist's receipt for lilies, her favorite, but never from Jack, late-night calls she took in the garage, voice hushed like a whispered confession. Each one fueled the rage, but denial lingered, a stubborn ember. Maybe Ethan was just a friend. Maybe the lies were protection, not poison. Jack confronted his reflection in the bathroom mirror one hungover morning, fists clenched on the sink. "You're losing it, Harlan," he muttered, but his eyes, cold, calculating, stared back unblinking. The man who'd executed a warlord with a garrote in broad daylight wasn't built for crumbling. He was built for endings. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of Pacific Northwest downpour that turned streets to rivers. Jack had rigged a tracker on her car, a ghost device from his kit bag, pinging her location to his phone. She claimed a client meeting in Tacoma. The dot blinked Bellevue instead. He followed, wipers slashing the truth across his windshield. Parked in a nondescript lot behind a coffee shop, he watched through binoculars as Sarah slid into Ethan's Audi, her laugh carrying on the wind, bright, unguarded, the way it used to be with him. They kissed, slow and hungry, hands roaming like they owned the world. Jack's breath fogged the glass, chest heaving. Not suspicion now. Revelation. The collapse hit like a building implosion, silent at first, then everything caving in. 12 years, vaporized in a parking lot lip lock. He drove home numb, the rain a veil for tears he wouldn't shed. Black Ops didn't cry. They adapted. That night, Sarah came home glowing, humming some pop tune as she kicked off her heels. "Rough day?" Jack asked from the couch, beer in hand, voice steady as a sniper's aim. She hesitated, that microsecond fracture he'd trained to spot. "Yeah, you know, deadlines." She leaned in for a kiss, but he turned his head, catching her lips on his jaw. "Smells like rain and regret," he said softly, watching her eyes widen. Dinner was a minefield, small talk about his VA therapy group, her latest project, the way she avoided his gaze like it was a live wire. "I love you, Jack," she said suddenly, reaching for his hand. He let her take it, thumb brushing her knuckles, memorizing the warmth before the cold set in. "I know," he lied, the words tasting like gun oil. Revenge brewed in the quiet hours, meticulous as a mission brief. Jack didn't need violence. That was for amateurs. He was a ghost, and ghosts haunted without fingerprints. First, the finances. Subtle drains from their joint account to an offshore shell he'd set up years ago, back when paranoia was professional. Enough to sting, not cripple. $50K, her fun money, for that European trip she'd hinted at with Ethan. Then the digital trail, forged emails from her account to his boss, CCNGHR, painting her as unstable, erratic. Personal issues affecting work, one read, time-stamped during her conference. Ethan's firm got the anonymous tip next, lewd photos, deepfakes Jack crafted on dark web software, her face on another woman's body, sent from a rival consultant's IP. Petty. Maybe. But betrayal wasn't a game. It was war. The crescendo unfolded over a weekend getaway she planned for us. A cabin in the Cascades. Jack packed light, his go-bag always ready. They drove in silence, the evergreen blur a mocking green screen for their charade. That night by the fire, he laid it bare, not with shouts but a dossier. Photos, transcripts, the letter from Chicago. Sarah's face drained white, then flushed crimson. "Jack, please, it's not what you think. Ethan was a mistake. I was lonely." Her voice cracked, tears streaming, the performance Oscar-worthy. He watched, impassive, as she begged, promises tumbling like loose rounds. "I'll end it. Therapy. Anything." But her eyes darted to her phone, buzzing on the coffee table, Ethan, no doubt, wondering why she hadn't arrived. "You think this is about him?" Jack said finally, voice low, lethal. He stood, towering in the firelight, the scars on his arms like war paint. "This is about us. The lies you fed me while I bled for strangers." He tossed the tracker device at her feet, the one from her car. "Every mile, Sarah. I mapped it." She sobbed then, real or not, collapsing into a chair. "I never meant to hurt you." But Jack was already moving, slipping a USB drive into her laptop, the kill shot. A video compilation. Their wedding vows synced to clips of her with Ethan, Her laughter overlaying his deployment letters read aloud in his voice. "Play it for him," Jack said, zipping his bag. "Tell him the hero's done waiting." He left her there, the cabin door clicking shut like a chambered round. No screams, no chase, just the echo of her breaking. Back in Seattle, Jack torched the evidence in a backyard fire pit, the flames devouring printouts as rain hissed overhead. The divorce papers arrived a week later, expedited by her desperation. She kept the house, the dog, the remnants. He took the shadows. Months on, whispers reached him. Sarah fired, Ethan dumped, their affair a scandal that burned hotter than any op. Jack? He vanished into consulting gigs, the kind that paid in silence. Heartbreak had hollowed him, but revenge filled the void, just enough to breathe. In quiet moments, nursing a scotch in some dive bar, Jack wondered if closure was a lie too. Sarah's last email, a month after, "I'm sorry. Truly." He deleted it, but the ache lingered, a phantom wound. Betrayal didn't end with payback. It reshaped you, left you sharper, lonelier. Heroes didn't win. They survived. And in the dark, survival tasted bittersweet, like victory laced with ash.